Don't know.
Do I get to clap too? Or is it just
Do you want to clap?
We need.
That's good.
All right, let's do this, boys and
Where do I
girls.
look? Because I'm just freaking out. So
Nah,
just,
me.
Look at you.
Yeah, if you ever want to say something direct, that's your camera there. But if
Nah, I
most of the
prefer
time,
just look at
just
you.
chat to me, bro.
Yeah.
It makes it heaps more comfortable.
Done.
I got you though, bro.
Done.
This whole way through, if you ever get uncomfortable, just look at me and I'll know. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's happening, legends? Welcome back to the Becoming Reborn podcast. Today, I think I've got the biggest entrepreneur I've ever met on the show. He is the founder of Phone King and also co-founder of Flight Risk and about 1,000 other businesses that we're going to get into now. Abraham Mikhail. What's doing, my brother? How are you, lad?
How are you?
Mate, it's so exciting to have you on here. You're so different to all the other guests that I've had on so far. And the biggest reason is the businesses that you've created, but the journey you've been on, bro, and how you've done it. And the best part for me is like I've only just realized over the last few conversations we've had, I thought I knew a fair bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, isn't there?
It's been crazy.
I love that. All right, let's start right back from the start, bro. What was your upbringing like? Where did you grow up? Where did you live? What was mum and dad like? All that stuff.
I grew up in the Shire.
Yep.
So grew up in Sylvania, and my mum and dad owned a fruit shop in Sylvania, and I used to just watch my parents work 7 days a week. Because with a fruit shop, you gotta wake up early. Like my dad used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the markets, buy the product, come back, and so on. So I used to just watch my parents absolutely smash it.
That's a very good lesson early on too.
Yeah.
Watching your parents go through that. And I'm a big believer, Abe, and I think you'd be the same with this. Your kids do what you do, not what you say. So if you're seeing your parents, like your kids are seeing you now, work as hard as you do, they're going to be doing the same thing later on like you're doing now. Now, I know the answer to this one. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Were you a good boy or a bad boy, Abe?
Oh, I think I was a good boy. I think I was a good boy.
Would your teachers say that?
Nah, but like school just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Like school just did not work for me from a very young age.
You don't realize it, but every single person that I've had come on here that's been a business owner have all said that exact same sentence there, that school just wasn't for me. I was the same.
Yeah.
I was great when in things that obviously we're passionate about, like sport and
Me too.
and art.
Yeah.
Great at those two things.
Me too.
Because you can be creative,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
But everything else where you got to be locked into a box, it almost makes you feel like you need to rebel, right?
I don't know if like I've thought about it heaps because obviously coming on and I was trying to think about like what happened and so on. But I don't think I was a bad kid. I just think the schooling system failed me in the way of it put me in a position where I had no other choice. Like when you're at school, if you're smart, you get recognized by the teacher as being smart.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, like I'm really, I struggle really badly. Like dyslexic, can't spell, reading's terrible. Like I can read in my head, but if you ask me to read something out loud,
No good.
no good. Like I can't even read my kids' books sometimes because it's just too hard. And I think because I had such bad learning difficulties, I turned into kind of most probably the class clown or just creating trouble or just not listening because that stuff wasn't going into my
Easily
head.
distracted, yeah.
So while the kids were getting recognised for being smart, I got recognised for being the class clown or, getting in trouble.
And through those times, like every time you kind of get in more trouble, and then it kind of gets compounded and you feel like, you're not that you're a bad, like you just said, you weren't a bad kid, but it just feels like you're on the wrong path almost.
It's just like if you're stuck in a room for so long and you can't comprehend what's happening on the board, like I don't know, throwing a pen becomes a good idea. You know what I mean? Like, or
it actually sounds like a great idea.
or turning your pen with an elastic band into like a bow and arrow. Like everything becomes like fun.
Because it's that creative
So
side of us.
I didn't hate school. I actually loved school.
it.
But I hated learning. I loved going to school because I could make friends and I'd have fun. And for me, school was a way to kind of, enjoy myself.
Yeah, I was exactly the same as you. Now,
I did year 12.
Yeah, so did I.
And I should not have. I should have left in year 7.
Yeah, me too. I only went to year 11 and 12 so I could keep hanging out with the boys. I even said it to my parents too. I said, like, because what was it called back then? It wasn't called an ATAR, whatever it was called, where
Yeah, I got that. I got the lowest average possible. Like,
Perfect.
They gave you, I think it was 25 or 30 legally. They couldn't show any
Anything
worse.
I think you got that.
I just, yes.
What was it called back then? It wasn't called an ATAR. It was called something else. But I did the same thing, and I didn't even get that mark. And I remember for like art, which was like was my favorite class to do when it was practical, I got like 26% or something like that for the theory. But for the major work, I got 100%. But it just shows the two different sides, right?
I've never passed an exam. No, like
Never.
And I don't like. I'm just like my learning difficulties is really, really bad.
But you turn the good thing for you, right? You're able to turn, like maybe you're not able to learn from paper or from a board, but I'm just going to wildly guess here, if someone shows you how to do something, you can do it.
Yeah, I think over the years, learning from people is the way I learn
Visual,
best.
yeah.
Visual. But school was like really bad.
So
like I found a report card the other day
Yeah.
from Cronulla High because I got expelled from De La Salle and then had to go to Cronulla High. It was the only school in the Shire that accepted me. And I posted it and it was like business studies, like 14 out of 14. Like I was the bottom. Like every single subject, I was literally bottom. Like like I was the dumb kid at school. And it's not one of those like, I'm not like trying to over exaggerate it. It's just more fact off. Unfortunately, I just could not hold in things to do exams and man, it got to the point that the school got me a reader. So I'd sit in an exam and there was a reader on one side and then there was a writer on the other side. So someone would read me my exam.
You'd have to, and then you tell
and then
them.
they would write it for me. And I was like, I could maybe pass doing this. I failed.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the best lesson for those, if there's kids listening to this or teenagers that are going through school now, they're struggling at school and they're worried that they're not going to be successful. Listen to the next 40 minutes of this podcast and your mind is about to be blown away with the things that Abe's able to achieve. Now, you get through school, right, brother? What's the first business that you start?
Oh, I think like for me, when I at school, and I think that it's most probably shaped me for who I am today. But from like year 4 and year 5 in primary, the schools used to sit me in isolation. So most of my schooling career was isolated. Like at primary, they had a printer room where there was a printer, or there was meant to be a printer, and they had just painted it fresh. And then they just made that my room in the principal's office. And I used to just sit in this room smelling like paint for hours on end by myself. And I was hardly ever in a classroom.
No way.
Yeah. Like not allowed on the playground. My learning was that bad that in primary I used to actually they sent me to a special needs school or a special education education school.
Yeah.
So a bus used to come pick me up from my house. I'd go to a school in Miranda that was for special education and so on. And I'd be there to mess around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And then that bus would bring me and drop me back to school. And then I'd have lunch if I was allowed on the playground. I wasn't. But I'd most probably spend around an hour in a normal school, because of my learning difficulties. So I actually had to go to a special school. So like my first primary years, I was at a different school, in a special needs class.
That's wild.
Yeah, I spent most of my time there. Like it was, and I didn't know what it was, but now I look back at it, and I was like,
You can see it.
yeah, I had a special bus that picked me up, and I went to this. I didn't realize what was going on until I got there,
You
and I
just
was
did
like,
what you're told.
oh wow, yeah, that they've put me here because I've got some serious issues.
And when did you start working?
I started doing like little jobs. Like I always wanted to kind of have my own independence. So I'd do anything really. I'd work at pizza shops, kitchen hands, anything like that when I was younger.
So you always had that work ethic, right?
Yeah, I've always wanted my own independence of doing something, because I think like if you're in that schooling system that tells you that you're dumb 24/7 and that no, and you can't do this, or you're not allowed in the classroom, or that you're a bad kid, you know what I mean? Like trying to do jobs where I could feel like I could put my energy into, and whatever I did, like if I was washing dishes, I could do it really well. Like I was real passionate about anything I did, because I just wanted to be good at something, and I didn't know what I was going to be good at, but if I did something, I'd just try real hard at it. I didn't care what it was. I just enjoyed just pushing myself and not using a pen and paper.
I love that, man. I love that. Even if I was washing dishes, I want to make sure I did really well.
I'm like, I get real fixated when I'm doing stuff, and I like in my head I try and make a competition of how efficient can I do that process. So from a young age, like I even worked at a nachos place. I mean, you had to put chips down, cheese, put it in the oven, pull it out. I had a full system running. Like, I enjoyed the challenge of trying to do something really good. But
me and you are really similar, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's like an OCD thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a chat off camera, and I don't want to make this sound like it's a disrespectful thing, but I think both of us are lazy, naturally lazy.
Yeah.
And what we actually trying to do is make the most efficient process that we possibly can in all through our lives. But that's also worked into a business benefit later on as well.
I'm lazy. I like chilling, but I think as soon as someone tells me it can't be done, or someone says no, because if you lived your whole life around no, you can't do that, no, and as you get older and you're no longer in the schooling system and you're left by yourself, and someone says no to you, I'm kind of like, I don't know, like I really want to try it, like is it really a no, or is it a no for you?
Yes.
Because I spent most of even high school years in the principal's office just sitting there looking at walls, counting bricks. So my patience level of working towards something when someone says no, I've got heaps of time. I've learnt patience because they stuck me in a room in the principal's office, not talk to my friends or anything for days and weeks and months on end. So I can just sit there, and I don't mind going through that tedious process where people hate the tedious process. I love the tedious process.
That's the grind, right?
Yeah.
I actually had this conversation about 3 months ago with two mates that I'm actually really close with, and since this conversation, things have turned and they're helping me out a lot as well. But I was telling them about my next business venture and what I want to achieve, and both of them said that they don't think that it can be done. And then a few weeks later for one of them, and then a couple months later for the other one, I said to them, you know how you said you don't think it can be done? Yeah. And they go, well, now I have to do it. It's not, and it's not. Look, a lot of the stuff that by the sound of things, you and I are the same. Kind of develop a bit of a chip on our shoulder of proving people wrong. This isn't one of those moments to prove them wrong. It's more to show them that I can.
I don't think it's about proving anyone wrong. I think it's about believing in yourself.
Back yourself.
And like when people don't believe in you and you've had a life off where you don't think you're going to do it, you're only left with yourself. And, if I really reflect on it, most probably I do things to show that I can do it, but I do it for myself, and I just pat myself on the back, because people will never understand your journey. And the minute you try and get people to understand that, or try and get them to feel what you're doing, or you see your vision and start listening to those no's, you've lost already.
Yeah, it's a battle you can't win.
No, you need to follow what you really believe, and if you really believe you can do it, then run at it as fast as you can and as hard as you can, and don't give up, because it's like people aren't meant to understand what you're doing because it's your vision. And most of the things that I've ever worked on, from the beginning to the end, everyone has told me not to do it. And if I listened to that, I most probably wouldn't do what I do. No,
we'll get to a couple of those decisions soon. But you work a few odd jobs here and there, and you're a hard worker, right? What's the first business? Is it Phone King that you started?
Yeah, Phone King.
Because this is when I met you, right? Yeah. So our mutual friend Dave Freeman, he was mates with you. But I remember seeing you up at Miranda on Thursday nights, and you told me yesterday it was like 15 meters square little store, and that's where Phone King started.
That's
Is that
right.
right?
Yeah.
All right, run me through that little process of how that happened.
Why it happened or how it happened?
Both. Why and then how?
I left school. Didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I liked doing things with my hands. I liked being creative. So I thought I'd become a builder. So signed up to TAFE, started an apprenticeship with a builder. Fantastic. I'm going to become a builder. But at TAFE, you need to pass exams. And when the 2 years into my apprenticeship, when the builder realised that I hadn't passed any of the exams at all.
No.
I hadn't passed not one subject. I think it was the only subject I think I passed, and I'm not sure if I did, was the first aid, because that's like
Yeah.
So
They pretty much tick that one off.
yeah, that's right. So I got sacked and started working for a couple of retail jobs. I realised that I enjoyed selling and I enjoyed being around customers. And there was a point where I had just turned 21 and I was young. I started kind of being a troubled youth, or, heading down the wrong track.
Yeah.
So nobody was really going to employ me because I can't spell, read, or write. I can't use a computer. I don't use a computer. I don't own a computer. I've never owned a computer. I've bought around about 10 computers that I've always ended up giving to other people in my team that were like, hey, do you want a computer? Because it's just, I don't know what to do with a computer.
Yeah.
So
Looks nice though.
yeah, so I couldn't really find a job. So I thought I'd start my own business and give myself a job. And I guess that's why sometimes when I hear the word entrepreneur, I'm like,
I know
it
exactly.
cringes me because,
I know.
like, really all I did was had to give myself a job because I couldn't be employed. And I didn't have the attitude either that anyone wanted to employ me, because I was young, I was arrogant, you know what I mean? I thought I could do everything better than everyone else. And I was like, so I sold my car and at 21 started franking. And it was a 15 square meter shop. Like, it was small.
It was tiny.
Yeah, it was really small.
And then how did you start getting the products from China? Like, where did that system roll out from?
I most probably started maybe 5 years, 6 years into my journey. At the beginning, I was just buying from local wholesalers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I used to just buy, because I was only a 15 square meter shop, like really small. And I used to operate that shop 7 days a week. And I did that for the good part of, 12, 15 years.
What time did you open every day?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. And what time are you there to?
5, 6 o'clock.
And it was just you one out?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then in my parents' house, downstairs, we had like an area, and I'd have tables laid out. I'd have all my stock. So then whatever I sold in the day, I'd go downstairs, pick it, put it in a bag, and then put it in my car and then take it to work the next day. So like I was just operating out of my parents' garage.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And you did that on your own for, what did you say, about 5 years?
Like 7 days a week?
Yeah.
No, it was like 15 years. Yeah.
And 5 years in, you went to China, sorry.
Yeah, 5 years in, I was like, I need to find something different. And one of my mates was heading over to China because his family imports heaps of stuff from China. I was like, can I come with you? And he was like, yeah. And so then my first, most probably 4 trips to China, I achieved nothing and bought bits and pieces and put in my luggage and brought it back.
Yeah.
But like trying to understand the process on how China works took me a little bit to figure out. But yeah, most probably around the 10-year mark, I started looking at ideas of what can I develop in China.
To innovate.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So when did you open your first store? Not this little, because you had the little store. When did you open your first funking store?
Like a shop?
Yeah, shop.
For the first, I would say 5 years, it was all kiosks. So like little pop-up kiosks. And I ran about 5 years in, 6 years in, I wanted to start growing, and I could see an opportunity to kind of make it a more retail experience, not just standing there. Because customers would come up to you and go like, are you guys permanent? If I buy something from you, can I return it to you?
Yeah, because it looks like a pop-up store.
Yeah, because it's just a kiosk. It's just sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
So sat down with an architect called Joe Snell, and this guy's absolute legend. and we just sat down and mapped out what a store could look like. And then from 15 square meter shop, we started rolling out 60, 70, 80 square meter stores. And yeah, that's how the process really started.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And by this stage, right, what are the accessories that you had in there? And then what was the first thing that you designed yourself in China and brought it back over?
Oh man, I've been doing phone accessories for like 22 years. Like I'm coming up to 22 now. So
Shit.
I was going to China at that time buying flashing aerials. Like, do you remember the Ericssons and the Nokias?
Yeah.
You could replace the aerial.
Yes, I remember this.
I used to sell flashing aerials, and that was really cool back then. Like, that was like, if you answered your phone and your phone flashed, like, that's pretty cool.
Mickey Mouse.
And then, so I went to China, found flashing aerials, and I thought that was really cool. We started before iPhone even came into the country.
You were like, this is how old we both are, right? I remember going there and I had like a Nokia, I think it was a 5510 or a 5550. You know, the ones that were like thinner.
Yeah.
And you could get like certain, like the new covers on them.
Yes. The replacement covers.
Yeah.
That was huge.
And you could take the front end back off. And I remember I got like
3315.
I had
it was 3310 was the original. Then 3315 came out with round buttons.
Yeah, but then I had the skinny 55. I'm pretty sure it was 5510 and it was blue light.
Okay, yes, I know exactly. It's a small phone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I thought it was so cool.
And they used to come out in grey or red, like depending which model you bought. But
and then you brought out the new covers for them.
That's right, yeah.
And I remember coming up and grabbing like one off you, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so cool.
We used to sell like covers for those like Roxy. Do you remember the brand? Like,
yeah.
Like Winnie the Pooh covers. Like, I was doing those types of covers when we first started, because replacing your housing was real easy. It was a button, you press it, take it off, bang.
And you could customize it however you want.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, he's better than the iPhones these days.
I think the transition actually happened from replacing your covers to protecting your phone.
Yeah.
So that was a transition, and at the time we didn't know what was going to happen, but from replacing your cover to doing all these cool covers to then actually protecting your device became more. Because back then with 3315s and so on, you wouldn't put a protective cover on it. You just replace the shell. So then there was a transition into protection, and that's where it evolved into iPhones and Samsungs. Everything's now more protection based. And then came the colors and so on. But originally it was clear cases that came out.
Something actually just popped into my head that I thought about you maybe like 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. How do you know, like, as this is just on Phone King, right?
Yeah.
iPhone, they're pretty much the same now, but there was a period there where they were kind of changing covers every single time they dropped a new phone because they had a new charger or they had whatever it was, right? They changed something slightly. How do you get in front of that so that by the time that phone drops, you've got the cover or the protection there ready to go, or do you have to wait till it comes out and then come up with the solution?
I think back, like when we first started, it was hard because internet wasn't as big, like social media and all that. Now that there's so much knowledge of what's coming out, they launch a little bit different. Like everyone knows when iPhone's about to launch a new model. So factories are already working to have things, but sometimes there'd be a lag by 4 weeks. So then I'd either fly into China to try and source it on the floor to get it, or trying to find a local supply. And the problem was a lot of the local suppliers were too slow, and the opportunity when a phone lands is what cases you have for that model compared to everyone else. So I used to fly into China, pack a suitcase, fly back in, and I'd have everything that like most stores didn't have. So we used to have our own kind of different look.
Because I thought, I was walking through Miranda when I just got a cover, right? And I was like, and I was thinking about where your store used to be. And this is before we even spoke about you coming on the podcast. And I was thinking, like, how does he stay in front with those types of things? Like iPhones are constantly changing it. So you would literally just get on a plane sometimes and go, all right, let's go.
It's like it's speed to market with anything in retail. If you're not the first person in with something, you everyone else will go to someone else.
So quick, eh?
Yeah, it's really fast.
What's your system like now? Do you have someone that would do that for you?
Oh yeah, like as soon as something drops, we are like moving as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Speed, like it's all about speed in retail.
Love that. All right. So how long are you operating Phone King
Yeah.
before you start to dive into other businesses?
I started Phone King, opened my first shop, and I just worked every single day. People like it was kind of hard at the beginning because everyone was kind of looking at me in this 15 square meter shop, and they were like, "What's he doing in this little shop?" Like people were like, "Is this your job?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's my job," because like if you like those little kiosks back then, people were opening coffee shops back then. People doing all this cool stuff and having this like little 15 square meter shop they used to stand in 7 days a week, you know. And then I just slowly started realizing that the products that we were bringing in that were a little bit different, customers wanted them, people were traveling a little bit further to come to us to get different types of stuff. So then I was like, okay, let's open another shop. So we did that, and then I opened up in Tuggerah up on the Central Coast.
It's a random spot, bro.
Look, it wasn't really, like, looking back at it now, I'm not sure it wasn't the smartest decision, because we opened up like in a new shopping centre.
Yeah.
And they had opened a new level.
Yeah.
If you do retail, never do that.
Yeah.
Like the new level, the new parts of shopping centres never really kick off. It takes like 3 years. So I had to open up this new shop in Westfield Tuggerah on the top level. I'm like, that's it.
It's going to kill it.
It's going to kill it. And then we got there and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't work. And there was hardly any, like, Tuggerah and the Central Coast up at that time was like farmland. And I didn't realise actually how remote it was. And I'm talking like 18 years ago, like, because like I had my first shop and I opened pretty fast my second shop because I was like, I want to grow.
Yeah.
But it was a disaster.
Geez, that's a tough lesson to learn early too.
I'd be in the kiosk and there would be no one on the level. Like, you'd look around and there was no customers and you'd just be sitting there and you're like, fuck.
What have I done?
What have I done?
Oof.
Yeah, it was scary. But I think that was most probably the best thing that happened to us. So then what we did was rented an apartment up in the entrance.
Yep.
And then I'd have turns where my sister actually moved up there and ran the shop as lean as possible for the good part of most probably 5-6 years.
Oh, so you grinding through, bro?
Had to, couldn't.
Fucking love that.
Yeah, could like at one stage the whole level was nearly hoarded up because everyone had gone broke on that level, because it was just a new part of the shopping centre in an expansion. You know, they expand for the community to grow into it. So, you know, they weren't ready for such a big shopping centre. And because the shopping centre traditionally was just a one-level shopping centre, so adding a level, and that's where I went to on the top level, the customers just stayed downstairs. They didn't want to go upstairs. It was like they weren't used to it. So it had to, like, their behaviour had to change about going upstairs. And for the good part of 7 years, it was like a ghost town.
Wow. And now, did that force you to kind of come up with some sort of formula where you're like, all right, well, when we go to the next place, we need to make sure that it's not in the new level, it's at like on the bottom level, whatever it might be. It had to have a certain amount of exposure, and then you come up with that formula for the next few?
Definitely. So I never really opened a shop on a top level again. I just stuck to the base level.
I love that.
Because what I realised in shopping centres is, while the top levels are great and they've got fashion, on the bottom level is your general merchandise run. And so that's where your mums, your dads, or general people just tend to hover on the ground floor.
Yep.
So we never opened a shop on another level ever again.
Because there's a book called Atomic Habits, right, Abe, right? And it talks about, this is just inside of a shopping mall, but it's not necessarily the products that are really good. It's where the product is placed.
Yes.
That is the most important part. And what you just said then sounds like the most important part is obviously where foot traffic goes, but the type of foot traffic that's getting through there, the mums and dads, the people that, and it's like almost, because your stuff's like accessory stuff, it's stuff you can buy on the fly.
Well, it's because, you know, everyone says it location, right? But in a shopping centre, and when you're doing mobile phone accessories back then, shopping centres weren't interested in putting phone accessories in good positions because it just was a kiosk. So that's where the strategy kind of came into, let's start building some really good looking stores, and go to Westfields with a new concept that they hadn't seen before, and invest heavily in design and fit out, so that they could most probably, like that they'll look at it and go, okay, we won't put it up in that top corner. We will move you up a little bit more and put you in a better position because your shop looks good. And that's where I started to evolve into shops, because then I was like, if I built a shop that was really cool design, the shopping centres would consider putting me in better positions.
Yeah. I didn't know that. The Westfield actually decides where you go.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they choose the categories on each level. They'll strategically go, okay, clothing is on this level, general merchandise is this level, restaurants are here, like everything's in pockets.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
And so then phone accessories were just pushed in the corners because it was kind of like, yes, we need them in the shopping centre, but we don't want them to be seen.
Phones is like everyone's third arm now. Like they're part of them. Like their phone is them. Like it's just their.
I can't live without my telephone.
Nah, no way. Now, being your first place that you had your little kiosk in Miranda was the first shop in Miranda too.
That's right.
And that's that one that's still there, pumping every day. Every time I walk past, my kids want to grab a balloon. Thanks so much for that, by the way, Aim. That's absolutely punish.
I know. But it works.
It works every time. My kids go there because they want to grab a balloon. They're like, they know the balloons are there. So you're making people go there, even if they don't want to. Love that from you. What was the experience like opening up your very first shop? Was there any hard times, or did it grow straight away?
I think my whole business journey from the beginning has been tough. And I think anyone that actually owns a business, like, I don't think you own it. Like, I think the perception of owning a business and it being making heaps of money and you just living your best life, I don't believe it exists.
No. When we find someone that's done it,
I watch all these Instagram pages and I'm like, how's this? Like when they start talking about, be an entrepreneur, like, you know what I mean? Jump on private jets with your bags. And I'm like, mate, I'm having an anxiety attack that I'm leaving. I'm going to have to turn my phone off for 3 hours on a plane and something could go wrong. It's not sexy.
Nah, Dana White said it the best. He's like, I remember seeing like this clip of him and he talks about how everyone thinks that running your own business, you actually get more time. No, you're 24/7. As soon as you're in your own business, you're 24/7. Anything that goes wrong in your business is your fault. Anything that goes wrong in the business is your responsibility to fix. Anything that goes wrong in the business, it always comes back to you. You got to figure it out.
It's the lonely spot at the top. I call it the lonely spot at the top because when you're running a business and you have a team and that's your structure, you can't talk down the line. So you can't, like, if things are going wrong, you can't sit there and talk to one of the team and be like, oh man, it's real fucked. I can't be bothered working today. Like, that doesn't work.
No.
So you need to talk up. So who do you talk up to? Yeah, you can talk to some friends, but they get over listen to you for the first conversation. They might engage.
Yep.
Second, third, they're like, fuck this guy. He hasn't stopped talking about his work and all his problems. So, yeah, the lonely spot at the top is what I call it because you have no one to rely on other than yourself.
I can relate to that, man. I can relate to that. All right, so you start gaining a lot of success now with Phone King, right? So you do the first one. How quickly do you roll out the next, 4 or 5?
My strategy wasn't always to be big. Where a lot of businesses, their whole strategy is to have 50 shops, and like, I'm relatively small as a business. Like, we've got 12 stores. We had 13. We shut one in COVID in the QVB. But I'm relatively small as a retailer. But it wasn't about rolling out more stores. It was about trying to get the stores that I had performing at 100%.
Brother.
And
I love that.
Like, one of my main competitors went under. And he had 42 stores or 45 stores. And I was going head to head with him, like in shopping centres, trying to get the same leases and so on. Westfields came to me and dropped 25 leases. I had a stack on my office desk in my office. And that was when I was looking to grow. And Westfield said that will give me money to replace all the signage. Just sign all these contracts and you can take over. At the time, I flew down to Melbourne. I could take over Melbourne. I could take over Queensland. I could take over sites in Sydney. They were all mine. Because he had gone broke, they had offered me his shops, his kiosks. They offered me everything, right? Because if you go broke in a shopping centre, you just leave everything and walk out.
Yeah, essentially the landlord owns everything within that.
That's right. So they had given me all the contracts to his shops, and I had been negotiating with them. They handed them all to me, and they're like, "Here you are. You can have all the shops, and we'll give you money to replace the signs because you will need to sign a 5-year lease." So they'll give you contribution, 30 grand per store, replace your signs, get it all up and running. I could have owned nearly 18 or 20 stores overnight. And I remember it was a Friday afternoon and I was walking home that day because I had to make that decision. And for me, walking allows me to think. So I put my earpods in and I walk. I still don't forget, I called my sister. And I was like, we're not taking on those 18, 20 stores. She's like, what do you mean? Like, it's amazing. Our competitor just went broke and we can take over his whole business. And I just stopped and I said, I think we're not doing it for the right reasons. It's greed and we're not doing it core to who we are as a business. The shops aren't designed the way I like to design shops. It's not our DNA, and we're only taking the opportunity because we want the shops. It's not the right strategy for our business. We're not geared up for that yet. And I said, it's not the right decision. I'd prefer to take my time, build one shop at a time, know that they're my stores, not just taking over someone else's shop and putting a sign on it, because that's easy, right? And I just didn't believe it was true to what I wanted as a business. And I thought it was just me being greedy because there were 20 shops and they were for free. But I didn't think that was the right decision for us because it would have broke us.
I love that, bro. And the reason why I got G'd up when you started and you were like, oh, my goal was never to be the biggest, right? So at the moment, bit of a dropping some info here. We're looking at doing multiple studios, and I've had heaps of people ask me to franchise. I say I'll never franchise. I don't want that, right? And the franchise model generally works on volume. That's right. Big amounts.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the biggest. It's not my thing. I want to be the best. And you said I want all my operations to be operating at 100%. 100%. Exactly what I want to be like.
Like, I want to be like in retail and Phone King for me. I want to be like the SAS or the SWAT team or like what we do. We specialize in it and we do it fucking well.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to own 80 shops, or I don't want to be the biggest. I just want to run a really clean business that I'm proud of and that I've also got control of, because a big part of me running a business is also knowing my people. And if you get to that type of level of owning 100 stores or 80 stores, you lose control to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong, some people have done it better, but for my skill set, I was like, don't get too big, know your people, create a great environment, but let's hustle hard. Like everyone part of our team, it was like my phone King team. We're like it's how can I explain it? We've all got the same goals. We all want to push hard, and it's all about just getting it done. So we didn't want to create some big weak team with like too many issues, because it's already hard enough running 12 shops, because we've got shops in New South Wales and Queensland. So if you've got a problem in a shop and someone calls in sick, you're on that plane flying there to cover that shift, no matter what you're doing, because things will happen, things will go wrong, and you're left with that responsibility to either make that shop operate or to staff it yourself with your own body. Like, if you can't find someone to open a shop, mate, you're doing it yourself, or I'm doing it myself.
I love that.
You know what I mean? And there's been so many instances where things have gone really, really bad, and we've lost, say, 10 staff in 1 week, and we've got at one point I've run Queensland with we used to run 3 people per store, 4 people per store. One stage we were running per shop 1 person because we were on skeleton staff. Things had gone bad. There was a toxic team behaviour, and
that's the hardest, man.
And then we just had to move to Queensland. and live in Queensland and try and make it work, rebuild the team, make sure the training's right, make sure your people are right, and then start rebuilding your team. And that's what happens in business. Like, it's all about your team and rebuilding your team. And when things go bad, you need to be the person that fixes it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine trying to fix 80 stores. I just want to do it well. I want to be proud of it.
Yeah.
But also I want to know my team, because I can walk in there, hang out with them, and the DNA of the business is most probably the most important thing for me. It's not about having 100 stores.
Love that, man. And so you grow to, you said 12?
I grew to 13 and had to shut one down at QVB
through COVID.
Yeah.
Now this is the story I've been wanting to ask you for a long time, because I've known this probably since around it happened, because again, another one of our really, both of us extremely close. My brother-in-law, probably your best mate, as well as Ramsey, Adam Choker and Ramsey Choker, all the chokers, sorry. But he told me this story that when COVID hit, you had an idea to buy some hand sanitizers before we actually went into lockdown. Now, run me through play by play. What the hell were you thinking? Because it turned out to be one of the best Hail Marys I've ever heard about. But how did this hand sanitizer, let's just call it a business, come about?
My birthday's in March.
Yep.
March 20th. So we jump on a plane, fly down to Melbourne for the Formula One. Formula One gets cancelled as we land because it was 2020, March.
Yep.
COVID was just starting to creep in. And then I get a phone call. I'm in Melbourne. I get a phone call from my wife and a couple of friends saying, hey, man, there's nothing left on the shelves in the shopping centres. There's no toilet paper. There's no food. There's nothing.
There's people fighting in the aisles for toilet paper. Remember that?
I'm in Melbourne. I have got no idea what's going on. I'm down for my birthday weekend. Come Sunday, I get a phone call from Ramsey, and he's like, Abe, we're all going to shut. Everyone's going to shut their businesses. There's lack of stock, no food around. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I've just had a chat with someone, and they reckon they're going to shut down all businesses. I started when I was 21, and we're now, I started in 2002, 2003.
Yeah, so we're 18 years in.
So I've never seen that before.
Never.
The government has never shut down
anything.
And I had already gone through the GFC. I had gone through all the hard times within my period of running a business. And then he was telling me, they're going to tell people that they're not allowed to work. I'm like, how can they do that? And he's like, man, anyway, I'm just letting you know, and you just shut. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, fuck, there's no food. There's no toilet paper. And I'm like, fuck, that's a serious issue. I was freaking out because my wife's at home while I'm in Melbourne away from my birthday weekend she's like, we can't get toilet paper, we can't do this. So I naturally started calling friends, because I had friends in the food distribution game, and they're like, yeah, man, it's really, really bad. So I didn't really think much of it, and I was just like, fuck, this is a bit of a problem. But I also needed hand sanitizer for my family and for friends around me. So I started reaching out to my team in China. I'm like, hey, could you send us a box of hand sanitizer? COVID's kicking off. This is what's happening. And they're like, yeah, we can organize it. And I'm like, okay, not a big deal. And then I got a phone call from Dave.
Dave Freeman.
And at the time, we had actually started a business called OPP. And it was basically a phone accessory business that was going through Coles, and it was about plastic banking and being a carbon neutral or plastic neutral business, so good for the planet. So we were already set up at that time in Coles, and he said to me, "Do you know anyone that can get hand sanitizer? Everyone's freaking out." Coles has also just asked me, can anyone get hand sanitizer? It's a serious issue. So I jump on a plane, come back to Sydney, land in Sydney. Man, it is seriously bad. Anyway, so
I know the exact day you're landing that Monday. Well, that's when we got told that we had to shut that day.
Yeah, things started scaling back. And then I had a meeting with Dave and one one of my main guys called Javier, and we sat down, we were talking about hand sanitizer, and it was originally to be bought for ourselves.
Just a box.
Yeah, just a box. I just needed
box.
a box. And Dave, like, you know Dave well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can see things, and he's also got a...
He is the entrepreneur, bro.
Yeah,
He's a real entrepreneur. He
is.
sees things before they happen, and he's an opportunist, and he just goes for it. Like, I'm assuming that's what's about to happen.
But I think that's what made our partnership so good, is that we had the same values, same work ethic, and we both weren't scared to roll the dice. And that's actually a saying that we've got with each other. I'm like, do you want to roll the dice?
Oh, bro, I love that.
Because you don't know what number can come up. And everyone, like, it's so easy to, like, when anyone everyone, it's so easy to say no. Like, everyone, like, every idea is like, oh, no, that's too hard. Like, it's a bit harder to say yes.
Yeah.
But if you roll the dice, maybe something good can come from it. So I'm now back in Sydney. It's Friday. I've had a chat with Dave and everyone. I'm like, hey, guys, I'm going out for dinner. At the time I was going into the city, everything was every table had to be separated. I went for dinner. Saturday night, had a catch up with my friends. I was hungover, dying on Sunday, and I got a message saying, wake up. Coles wants 1.2 million bottles of hand sanitizer. Do you think you can get it done? Oh man, it was scary, man. Like I'm hungover. I've now got...
Did I say 1.2 million?
Seriously. Coles was like, we're committed. We need it. There's nothing. Dettol can't supply. No one can get stock. And I'm trying to organise a box for our family and friends. And so
What's a box?
And I remember copying messages and phone calls. Everyone's calling me. I pick up the phone. I'm like, hello. He's like, man, get up. Like, Coles said if we can support Coles because they cannot supply it to the Australian public, no one has hand sanitizer, they will purchase 1.2 million bottles of hand sanitizer. And I was like, okay, let me just sleep a little bit more. I'll call you back. And I started freaking out because, like, that's a massive number. Like,
huge.
Like, anyway, it started from there, and it got crazy. Because then you're faced with some serious issues. If you're importing something from China, it's going to take you at least, say, 25 days on the water plus production. You're looking at around about 6 weeks delivery time. And then,
how quickly did you need to buy?
Well, there was no hand sanitizer in Australia at all. Like, the people were starting Facebook pages saying, hey, if anyone's got hand sanitizer, they'll like, this petrol station has hand sanitizer, and everyone will drive there. Like, it was a serious issue because, like, everyone was scared of getting sick. So anyway, Monday comes, get on the phone to the team in China, and I'm like, we need hand sanitizer. And by luck, we went to a factory. And back then, nobody knew about the company, but it's called BYD, the Build Your Dreams, the car company.
Yeah.
So
electric company, right?
Electric company. And they're a technology company.
They just sponsored Roosters, didn't they? Or was that a different
Did
one?
they?
Yeah,
They're massive. They're huge as a business. So we had a team meeting with a factory, and they said, we can produce 100,000 bottles for you a day. And we're like, okay.
12 days.
Yeah, okay, 12 days. They can wait. How do we get it to Australia? And the guys were joking around, and they're like, let's book a plane. And I'm like, how are we going to book a plane? And then we just started this, like, it was so, like, I can't even explain to you. Like, the plane idea was a joke.
And it ended up being a reality.
And then we started reaching out to people and like, hey, because hand sanitizer is classified as dangerous goods. So it's flammable. Mm-hmm. So planes also don't want to carry that stuff because it can cause an issue. So we had to jump through so many hurdles. Anyway, we find...
Was that Dave's idea, the plane?
It most probably was.
Yeah, because he's wild like that.
It most probably was. But then it was like, how do you book a plane? Man, I sell phone covers. Like, it's not like, and I was great at doing my little retail thing, but now we're importing 1.2 million bottles of hand sanitizer, and now trying to book a plane, and it went crazy. Like, the research that we had to do, we were doing like 23-hour days, just like trying to figure this out, because it wasn't possible, because no one was bringing like, nobody brought hand sanitizer at that time into the country other than by ship in a container.
Yeah.
So we ended up finding an Emirates flight, a cargo flight, a Boeing, whatever it is, cargo plane. And they said that they'd fly in the hand sanitizer.
Wow.
Yeah, but like, it wasn't like, it was wow, but it was like
stressful,
because you're playing with so many different elements. Like, you now have to ship 1.2 million bottles in trucks to Hong Kong airport, to the tarmac, then to be loaded on a plane. And we didn't know this, but when you book a plane, you've got a spot for about an hour. If you miss that spot, you've lost your plane, because you need to get all done with traffic control. This flight's booked underneath your name. Like, there's so many variables, and we had no idea what we were doing. Like, we had the idea, but like, so we ship 1.2 million bottles to Hong Kong airport, and then the airport calls us and like, these can't go on the plane. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, every box needs to have a DG sticker on it, like a flammable sticker with all these warning labels. But no box had those stickers.
Oh God.
Yeah. And I just had spent a lot of money booking this plane and the stock. We're about to potentially lose our allocation for that plane leaving at that time, and that you lose the money.
And you only got an hour.
Yeah.
What the hell did you do? I'm getting sweaty.
Oh, man, I'm getting sweaty thinking about it, because I haven't thought about it, because so much has happened since then. So we just start calling. And this is where that mentality of school, everyone's saying no to you. Man, we were on the phone, man. We found the chairman of, like, I think it was the aviation company. And me, Dave, and Javier got on the phone, and we were begging this guy. And we're like, we've just paid for 1.2 million hand sanitizer bottles. We've just booked a plane that costed 1.5 mil to book. And it's going to be a disaster if we don't actually get our stock on this plane. And anyway, we just went to overdrive, man. We had people driving with stickers. We offered the chairman to have his staff, and I said I'd pay. I think it ended up costing us $15,000 to get stickers applied to every box within that hour. And luckily, we got it on the plane, and we just didn't know what could happen. Like everyone told us not to do it, and I think understanding that Coles was like, dead all can't even supply us, and we're just like, let's just go for it. Like, let's just give it 100%. And then the boxes landed in Australia, and we were like, thank God. Like, it was like, we went, like, that night we didn't sleep. We were on the call, because like, every minute counts when you're on the tarmac, when your plane's sitting there. So we're calling this guy every minute, every half an hour. Can you please send us photos? How far have you, like, how many boxes are done? Is it going to make the plane? And they're like, look, we're running out of time. So then we convinced them, why don't you start loading the boxes that are already tagged onto the plane? It's like, no, because all of them need to be done. I'm like, well, if you just start loading some of them,
speed up the process.
We can keep putting stickers on the other boxes. Anyway, the guy was a legend and came through, landed the stock in Australia, and it just got evaporated because everyone needed it. Every household needed it. Like, Coles sold out pretty fast off the hand sanitizer.
Wow.
Because, like, it was a serious issue.
And then did you get to roll it out a few more times?
Yeah, we booked a couple more planes after that.
That's hectic.
And then just started learning the process of booking a plane. And so then, instead of going through a company, like, to bring all your cost of goods down, because, like, there wasn't much money in it because you're booking planes. So, like, So Dave was actually quite smart, and we came up with a fixed price, and Coles committed to a certain amount of stock.
Yeah.
But what happened was the stock on the plane would fulfill the Australian market now.
Yeah.
And we started sending containers at the same time to bring the cost of goods down.
Yeah, I get it.
And so then we stuck to a fixed price, and I think we did something like nearly in total between it all, it was like, I don't know, around about 4 million bottles of hand sanitizer.
That is incredible.
Like we fucked up too. We over ordered at one stage and we had to throw some out. Like, you know, it's not a, like, it was just about, it was about, you know, for me, that hand sanitizer thing was about doing it with a friend, Dave, and like Javier, and it was just that bond that we created with each other. Be like, it's not possible to be done, but we will work together day in and day out to get this done. And whatever hurdle came at us, we wouldn't stop. Like, we had so many problems.
You just got to solve them.
Like, if you think about the problem, you've lost already because you've given up.
Got to focus on the solution.
Just solution based.
Yeah.
Like, then we got excited and we're like, let's do it again, because Coles was like,
we're in.
And we were actually even then supplying to the ambulance, like to the paramedics. Some hospitals were taking stock because it was a serious health issues. Yeah. And then we're getting ready to send another plane, and we sent 3 semi-trailers through China to come out into Hong Kong and to be loaded on the plane.
Yeah.
And around about 3 hours before the plane was about to leave, one of the semi-trailers got stopped at the port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And at the time, BYD is like a massive Chinese company. They got massive pull in China, and they were like, don't worry, customs will let it out and it will make the plane. I'm like, you need to understand, if that stock doesn't make it out of customs, we're still paying for that plane. We're about to lose everything. I had taken out loans to get it done. It was like we were leveraged really, really hard. And everyone in China, including the customs officers, people from BYD, they're like, don't worry. It'll be out in an hour. And we just sat down and I was like, I don't trust it. I'm like, we've got more stock in the warehouse. Load a truck right now and send another truck. And they're like, what for? It's going to make it out. And I'm like, we're not relying on chance that this might come out. Like, send another truck now. Anyway, we call the factory. We've got 3 hours before our plane needs to take off. Our stock is now held in customs, and they didn't release the stock.
Shit.
But our truck was trekking to the border, and we were calling the truck driver, and we're like, we'll give you an extra $200, please go faster. we harassed the driver, my team in China, like, we would call him where is he? How far now?
How many minutes?
How many seconds? How many minutes? And then we had to the stock came out from the same factory. So we're about to hit the border again, and we're sitting at 45 minutes to go. Truck hits the border, and it goes through.
Oh.
They never released our stock from customs for another 2 weeks.
No way.
Yeah. And if we didn't make that decision to back ourselves and not play on chance and the hope that customs would release it, we could have lost everything.
Holy smokes. And that's not even like your main business at that time. That was just something you're kind of doing on the side.
Yeah. It was.
I'm sweaty.
Oh man, running a business is not fun.
No.
It's fun, but it's not easy.
No, yeah, that's the word. Like, there is lots of fun parts, but then when you get to those decisions where you've got to, and it comes down to you making those decisions.
Absolutely.
That's the hard part. That's where people struggle. I'm going to tell a quick story, right? And I'm not going to go into the details of the numbers and stuff like that because it's not my story to tell, but there's something really cool that I want to share with the audience that you did that was really cool that Ads has talked to me about. Now, Ads' family, they were very wealthy growing up, and then they fell in some hard times.
That's right.
Adam came up with this idea, and Ramsey came up with this idea to start the grounds. They didn't have the finances to do it. Now, I've heard that you I know that you helped them out there, but you were under the impression that if I give them this money and it comes back, cool. But if not, I'm good.
Yeah.
Bruh. Loyalty is one of my biggest traits. My biggest value, sorry. That story, man, that like Ads has told me the specifics of it.
Yeah.
That touches me. Like, where does that come from, bro?
Man, I'm the only boy in my family. So the chokers are like my brothers, you know, and watching their family go through that hard time, you know, hit me hard because actually Ramsey's father was a person I looked up to in business, and watching their family kind of go through that, and my best friends growing up with, and like they're my brothers, like we spent every day together, we trained together, we'd go to school together, and watching their family go through that hard time was, you know, like, and for me it's not like I do what I do because I enjoy the hustle and working. It's the money side of things. I believe you can make money. But like your friends and your family, like that's what I run business for. Like it's not about just me. It's about who I can support and how I can do things. And then watching them go through that, like, you know, I wanted to do whatever I could do. And I was still really young at the time, and I gave whatever I could. And it wasn't like, yeah, it was never like, yeah, money comes from you playing that game of running business, you know what I mean? But it's not the most important thing. And, you know, watching your friends go through a hard time, and then like the support that they give me too, like these, like, yes, most probably I supported them at the time financially, but as brothers and friends and as people that have helped me through my life, that's worth more than money to me. So like stepping in, supporting my mates that have supported me my whole life, it's like, yeah, it was never, it's not the money. Like I didn't, like, I couldn't see my friends go through such a hard time. And they went through a hard time.
Hard time, bro.
Like between Ramsey and Adam, they didn't have money for petrol. They didn't have money for food. And, you know, watching your best mate that you've grown up with go through that, like, I take money out of my pocket, give it to them. And I'm like, we're together. Like we're a family, you know? So, yeah.
Bro, that's one of the best stories. When Ads told me that story, I always respected you as a business owner, an entrepreneur, even though, like, we don't like that word. But as a mate, that is, like, unbelievable what you did. For now, they've grown into what the grounds is now, brother. No, it's all because of you. You know what I mean?
It's not, man. Like, it's not like they work so hard.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I'm telling, and they inspire me too. Like, you know, growing up with Adam and Ramsey and my mates, like we've got a really close friendship with all our mates, and to the point we all help each other out.
Yeah.
We're all there for each other. Like, and at that time they needed me to be there for them, and I didn't care if I lost the money. It was about just supporting my friends. Crazy. And then they just blew up.
I know.
Like, it was huge. Like, I remember the grounds opening, and I think Ramsey went to New York or something, and he's like, man, can you help on the weekend? And I'm like, what do you need me to do? And he's like, he was making bacon egg rolls on the barbecue. Anyway, I'm like, done, I'll be there. Because he didn't expect it to be that busy. He just blew up overnight. Like, everyone, his mom, friends, everyone was in the kitchen doing dishes. Like, the grounds, when it opened, it just blew up. So then I was on the barbecue cooking, but there was a big problem in doing that, is that every time an order would come through, you have to read the name.
Shit.
Yeah. And
can't read.
No, but like names are hard.
Yeah.
Like cat, dog, car is good.
All good.
But when you start reading names like
Multicultural names too, brother. Alexandria. Heaps of my cousins out there, bro.
yeah, but let's just stick to Stephanie for instance. Or
names.
like some weird because you and I was struggling so hard, so I had to get someone stand next to me. So I'd cook. I'm like, please read this name out. I have no idea what this is. So then the grounds from then was just
boom.
And
it's so good to see ads with Pippies now, and that's just blown up.
He's crushed. He is honestly one of the hardest workers,
bruh.
Between both of them,
Ramsey's still at the grounds every day.
No, nobody understands.
No one.
No one understands the amount of work that goes into running a business, and watching the boys do I'm talking about crazy hours. Yeah. I'm talking about building things with your own hands too.
Ads.
Yeah, man.
I helped him on the weekend. He instead of buying new chairs, he built new tables. He built new tables.
Yeah.
And I was at the back helping him build the tables.
Because it's expensive, man. Running a business, if you kept buying things. And between Ramsey and Adam, mate, they started when they built the grounds because they had nothing to go off. It was built by hand. And what I mean by hand is by their hands. Yeah. I still remember getting we were moving timber. Everything was done by hand. It wasn't given to some contractor. Hey, can you please do this shop fit out? No. Everything was how can we use this piece of timber to put it on this wall?
I always joke with dads. I call him the Swiss Army knife because this story sums up ads, right? So I was redoing my little holiday cabin down the coast, so it's 3 hours away. Yeah. And I was ads called me the Saturday, Arvo, and we're just talking. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just redoing my cabin up. Tomorrow I've got to sand the deck." He goes, "You got to sand?" I go, "What do I need?" He's like, "Do you not have this?" I'm like, "Nah, man. I'm just gonna figure it out tomorrow." He drove down that morning, sanded my deck, and then drove home just to come help me.
So after, you don't know this, but after he did your deck, he came to my house and my deck was a bit
no way.
And I looked at it, he's like, I'll be here on Friday. This is what I mean by the type of friendships of helping each other out. And he's like, I'll be there. It'll take me all day, but I'll come in at 7. I reckon we'll finish at 8 o'clock at night. And he's like, don't pay anyone. I'll sand the deck. I'm like, Adam, I don't want you to sand the deck. And he's like, nah, man, I'm coming to sand the deck. Yeah. I quickly booked someone in before he came because he was serious.
Yeah, he would.
He came and scoped it out 2 times. He started telling me which paints I needed. And he's not a builder.
No.
But to support your mate, he'll step in and he'll be like, mate, and that's the type of people they are.
Love that, man.
And so when you get that type of love from your mate,
it just goes both ways,
bro.
Man. That's hectic. So in between all these times as well, bro, I know you end up doing property development with Dave as well. Yep. Like we were talking about before, you've got what are the uni premises called that you got?
Boarding houses.
Boarding houses as well. And you got all these things going on, yet you decided, you know what, I'm going to start one more business. Flight risk, baby.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
And to be really honest with you, coming out of COVID as a business, regardless on hand sanitizer and stuff, COVID was destroyed so many businesses.
Yeah.
And it basically nearly destroyed my business. And, for the last 4 years, were most probably the hardest trading business years of my life. Because, we were shut down, we had tax bills, we had rent that we had to pay Westfields.
Yeah, because Westfield, they didn't let you let up, eh?
No. The Westfields did not care. They wanted their money, and that's just the way it was. And
wow.
We went through a really hard time through COVID, and I'm just grateful that we made it through COVID, where some people unfortunately didn't. But we also made some really strong decisions at that time, and one of them was that I didn't pay rent to Westfields for 2 years, and then I ended up in a massive legal battle with them because if I didn't at the time the government was saying that they can't lock you out of the shopping centre, and I had 100 staff, and I need to pay these guys. I've also got some guys on visas, 457 visas and so on, and they're relying on me to pay them. So I actually tried to keep my business going as much as I could through COVID. It cost me a lot of money and lost a lot of money through it. But if I didn't make the decision not to pay any rent throughout that period and just hold until I negotiated with Westfields, we would have gone under. And we ended up going to court with with Westfields, and I ended up in a legal battle with them for like a year. And it nearly broke me, to be honest with you, because I was in like $2 million debt with Westfields, and I needed to survive and run a retail outlet that's in Queensland and Sydney.
Shit, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So, and Westfields didn't really want to negotiate, and they were running a real hard ball.
I've heard this from multiple people.
Man, it's like once you start getting, like, it's great when things are going well, but when you're in a position that you've got 13 stores at the time and you're paying, call it $200,000 approximately each store rent, like it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And they expect you to just come up with that money. But at the beginning of COVID, when I started realizing this stuff was happening, I didn't pay rent, and I stopped paying rent. And then we went into a legal battle, and thankfully, it got to a point where it was around, the legal battle went for around about a year, and it got to the point that I actually even just started representing myself, and then it wasn't getting anywhere with the lawyers. So then I said to the lawyers, step back. I'm going to actually deal with it myself. So I ended up going and having meetings with Westfields and having to do all this stuff. And then I ended up, thankfully, coming up with a deal with Westfields that ended up like helping. But I ended up having to do it myself. I ended up negotiating the deal by myself. I had support with people in the background, but I pushed the lawyers back because it was just every meeting was two lawyers arguing with each other.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I walk out. That was a 10 grand bill.
Yeah, beauty.
I can't keep affording to paying all these bills for a legal battle. So I ended up having to go in, represent myself. And then that was good. And then not last year, the year before, I thought COVID was finished.
Yeah.
Business back to usual. But it wasn't.
No.
Cost of goods gone up, labour gone up. There was no one wanting to work at that time.
Yeah.
And it just, do you remember?
Because everyone got paid, so they're like, oh,
Yeah,
not doing anything.
no one wanted to work. And mate, my business at that time was struggling. And like the economy wasn't great. Everything was falling to pieces. And I just knew something had to change.
Yes.
And I had to do, and I had done so many different projects in the time and so on. And to be honest, the hand sanitizer thing was great, and it was a small period of time. But through COVID, I feel like we didn't evolve as a business because we couldn't go to China to buy stock. We couldn't do things. Team were wanting to be on the $500 that they were getting paid per week or whatever it was. And it was hard to get the business going again. And then I made a decision at after I went through that real hard year. I think I was 23.
Yep.
And then last year was 24. And then I started the year and I said something needs to change. And I was like 130 kilos.
I was gonna say, bro, you're looking very good. I've been thinking this whole time, my G.
Stop it.
You look very good. You've lost a lot of weight, though.
I have. I was unhealthy. I was not happy. I had gone through quite a few battles with Westfields, with the legal battle that took a year to solve. And business was struggling. And then I just said, I needed to start looking after myself. And I want to really do something different, but I knew I couldn't do it in the current physical state I was in and my mental state. So I went to Thailand. I booked myself a ticket to Thailand with a mate for 3 weeks. And I just turned up to Thailand. I shaved my head as soon as I landed because I kind of needed to get it. Like when I got a challenge, man, the war's in my head, like the battle that like once a challenge is put in front of me, because no one's going to help you get through it except yourself. I needed to put myself in a really good mindset and health. So I went to Thailand.
Shaved your head.
Shaved my head, kickboxing camp, trained 2 times a day. And then when I was in Thailand, I realised they're 3 hours behind us.
Yeah.
So, and then with daylight saving, it's 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I realised that I was there by myself. I was working, but I'd wake up at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and I'd start working because everyone in Sydney would be 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. So I started to realize that my productivity was growing because I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, start work. That's 9 o'clock Sydney time, roughly, or 8:30.
Yeah.
By 2 o'clock, everyone at 5:30 is going home.
Yeah.
I'll go do a training session, go to the beach, come back, and then double down and keep working to 12 o'clock at night. And I created this extra time in my day that I can focus. And then I realized that, like, I've always loved tech and bikes, and then realized that if I needed to bring flight risk together, it needed to take something more than just work. So then I just grabbed my whole family and we moved to Thailand. And I spent I just got back 2 weeks ago. That's why I'm still dark. I got back like
Great
2 weeks
tan.
ago. Thank you. But yeah, man, I moved my whole family to Thailand. And then I just got healthy and worked as hard as I could. And it was tough. Like putting in those hours was like full on. But I knew that I had nothing. To launch Flight Risk was like when people say burn the boats.
Yeah, bro. No plan B, bro.
Nah. And I've heard it before, and I've seen it, and I've done it, and so on. But like burn the boats, like, man, last year, I ran at absolutely anything and everything that I could do.
Far out.
And just worked day in and day out. And then I used Thailand as my platform to fly into China, sit down with engineers, designers, creating the technology to try and do what we did with our bikes. Because with what we've done with the bikes, we've put a lot of technology in there that most e-bikes don't come with. But it took weeks and months of engineering and development.
That's where your creative brain comes in, though, right, bro? Because you're thinking about things that most people don't even think about to put on a bike. You know, you got the GPS on there.
Absolutely.
You've got like the different types of batteries. So like the ones that only goes like one that's suitable for clothing, one that's suitable for like me. Like there's one that's like a little bit slower, one a little bit faster. Kids ones.
But just the technology, like, man, I'd fly into to China and spend 2 weeks in factories, and I'm talking like morning to night in a factory, just meeting engineers, designing technology, because some of the technology that we've put on the bikes has not been seen on those bikes at all. Like from our
blinkers, great touch.
So our chargers that we've put into our bikes,
Yeah.
like no one, because if you're gonna build something, like the whole purpose of making a product is making it unique, making it cool, but also making it the best product that's in the market, where it's not about taking a shortcut. It's actually going for the hardest thing on that product.
Yeah.
And we realized that there was no blinkers on bikes. Realized that chargers, because I had been building tech for so long in China, the chargers that we're using in Australia were not up to standard, or not even off the highest standard. GPS, bikes were getting stolen. And they were saying, let's put air tags on bikes. I'm like, what happens if the air tag dies or it gets taken off? You lose your bike. It's a $4,000 bike. You've just lost it. So we doubled down so hard with the engineer team, and we created blinkers. We created better chargers, faster chargers, safer batteries. We spent so much time building the technology to then launch Flight Risk. So like last year was absolutely epic with like the amount of work that it took. And it was done because I just knew, like last year was a bad year for business.
Wait, so I'm just kind of piecing this together. You put the whole of Flight Risk together within a year.
Yeah,
You came out with like 6 different bikes in one drop.
I'm not saying, like, I'm being just honest with you, because like it's, you know, I put like me and
That's
like
insane.
me and
That's
the
like
team,
5 years worth
it's
of
not
work.
just me and the team, like just put so like it got to the point where people started questioning my sanity, and like literally people were coming up to me and asking me, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And I'm like, am I not okay? Because, like, I was obsessed, like, tunnel vision, like, all I could think about from the minute I woke up to the minute I'd go to sleep. Some nights I wouldn't sleep.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But,
Too many ideas.
but like, people get, like, sometimes I speak to people and they're like, oh, man, I had a really bad sleep. I had anxiety last night. So many things were going through my brain. But because I was in Thailand and I had separated myself from everyone, no distractions, no friends, and I just stayed within I had a house there, and some weeks I just wouldn't leave the house because from the morning to night I'd be on phone calls or Zoom calls or doing things, and I literally just became a hermit, and all I did was work. I moved to Thailand so I could double down and work extra hours, and like I was there for 9 months. At the end, I was trying to take my kids to, because my kids went to school there. I didn't even know how to take my kids to school because my wife would do all of that because she just knew that I was locked in to working. I couldn't leave my desk because I had papers all lined out. I had lists that I had to tick off for the day that needed to be done because we moved so fast to produce this. I had to have every minute or second in my day to dedicate to it.
I can't believe I'm still on the fact that it took you 9 months to launch Flight Risk. It feels like it's a brand that's been around for like 3-4 years already.
Me and Johnny, and me and Johnny started the conversation because he's quite technical, okay, and he's one of the co-founders, and he loves bikes, loves tech, and so on. We started that conversation when I had first when I first landed in Thailand in March 15th.
It was only meant to be a 3-week holiday.
Yeah. We were talking about bikes, and I'm like, hey, do you want to do this? And he's like, maybe we ordered like 50 bikes, or like it never start. They never, with time, with the engineering and realizing how unique our product was, it started in April, and we launched in December. We had a product in Australia in December.
That's insane. And then since then, you've had big names. Part of your marketing, you had Spanian, you've had a Kid Leroy, Roxy Jasenko. I saw Alex Pereira. That's probably my favorite one. Like huge names already, like, you know, rocking the brand. I asked you before we came on, like, is that your network? Is it from you reaching out to certain people? How did you come about these things?
I also last year I launched a brand called 270X, and basically it's a brand of product that anything for influencers, lip gloss holders, and all that. It's quite a cool brand. I actually launched it with Roxy.
Yeah.
And while we created that brand and working on it, kind of understood how the PR side of things work.
Yeah.
And kind of learnt from kind of understanding, basically watching how she operates, and like I think learning the skill of moving fast, making something unique, and moving really fast. We launched 270X with Roxy because you mentioned, and that's kind of where that kind of journey started. And kind of just learning from her how fast. I always moved fast. Just learning from her how fast she moved. Kind of like, because I'm a competitive person, and everything that I do is usually with a business partner. I said that earlier to you, but me and her partnered together on doing something, and partnering with someone that wants to work just as hard as you. It becomes a bit of a competition on who can work harder.
Yeah, I get that.
And not in a arrogant way, or not in a way to be better than them, but we're both leveling up. So then when we took on Flight Risk, my wife had come from a advertising background, so she doubled down and did all branding and the strat on all the branding, and she brought together an amazing team of people that worked on it. And then working alongside Roxy and her way of thinking to bring things to market also.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Powerful, man.
learning those things between creating a brand through like doing it properly and then launching it through the right kind of channels and doing it in a way that works.
And even taking opportunities. You told the story about, you had a mate that who was able to find where Alex Pereira was, and it was like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Said, I put 3 bikes out the front of, was it the W? Is that what you said?
Yeah, because the UFC was in Sydney, and I just knew the bikes were really kind of unique and cool. And I liked
especially that chopper one that
the chopper one.
Yeah, it's cool as, bro.
The 666 is my favorite bike. And we just put them down there, like, guys, if you want to jump on them, ride them. And I think that at that time, I most realized that, hey, maybe our product is really, really cool. Because as soon as Alex saw him, he's like, I want one in America. He's like, actually, send me 4 to America. My trainer wants one, I want one, and my sons want one. He's like, I want bikes in America. And at that point, I was like, fuck, maybe we've designed something that's really cool. Because when you're so close to a project and you're working you can't see it.
I get that.
So that's how it all kind of formed, and that's how we ended up in that.
Is that a possible outcome for you to go to America? What's the e-bike situation like in America?
I think the e-bike market's most probably just starting. It's not most probably. It is just starting, and it's happening a lot around in Europe. If you go to Asia, everyone's on bikes. Australia's starting to adapt to it now. I think that there is a space to really become that second vehicle at home where you don't need a second car. You can just jump on one of our flight risks and you can go to the shops, you can go down to the park. And what we're actually finding is a lot of parents are actually buying them for their kids, for their own independence.
Yeah.
So like some parents can't take their daughter to netball training or soccer training. So they're buying these bikes so when they come home from school, they can go to netball training.
Yeah.
They can go to the soccer field.
I get that.
And that these kids are now starting to have their own responsibility. And they're also utilising these things as vehicles. Like, people are picking up their kit. Like, a girl came into our warehouse the other day for a service. She had done 100,000 kilometres on her bike, and she was 13.
100,000 kilometres? That's more than what I've done in my car.
Yeah.
It's way more than what I've done in my car.
And she had the bike for 2 months.
Holy smokes.
So, it's really bringing people to move around a lot more. Get out of the house. Also, you ride.
Yeah.
There's something about being on these bikes for your mental health.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, I've always bought bikes. I've back in the day when Adam even bought fixies, the fixie era where you have only one cog and chain.
Yep.
I had one of those. I've always loved bikes, but that pedaling consistently, I couldn't do the pedaling. So releasing these e-bikes now and realizing that people use them as vehicles, kids use them as transport. And then when I get on a bike, I can take my kids and I feel better about myself.
Yeah, you do.
Like, you feel young again. You feel the wind, you're driving down, not touching your phone. You're concentrating on where you're going.
Yeah.
And you just feel like you're on a BMX like a kid again.
Yeah, and you're present. Yeah. It's mine and close. One of our favourite things to do is take the kids down on one of the Arvos on the weekend and to ride the bikes down and get an ice cream or Yoga Berry. If it's Yoga Berry from Miami decide, and she yells at us.
I feel like these bikes are bringing communities and families back together because people are coming in and my wife wants one,
my
kid wants one. And it's getting people back out onto the streets, kind of like, that old school riding around till the lights go. That's back.
They were the days, man.
Yeah, but it's back now with the e-bikes and that experience of being able to go for a ride as a family and not be stuck in a car. There's just something about it that's just suiting our culture.
It really is. And that brings us to the last question too, Abe. And this one's always a hard one for me because it can always bring up some emotions. Now, you've got kids and you spoke a lot about your kids as well. And I feel a big driver of Flight Risk is so that, like you just mentioned then, to be spending time with your kids.
Absolutely.
What do you want to be remembered by from your kids?
I want to be the father that's experienced everything with my kids. You know what I mean? And I'm quite active with my kids. I'll throw water bombs at them, and I want to be the dad that's been the first person to do that with my kids. Like, you know, like it was my son's birthday the other day, and they're like, "Why did you put your son's head in the cake?" Because I put his head in the cake. And I'm like, man, I want to be the first. I don't want anyone to, I want my son to experience all this stuff so he knows how to respond to things if it happens and I'm not there. So for me, I want to be the leader for my children, but I also want to be the person that shows them how to do things, but maybe even do it safer, maybe also have fun, but also be really respectful. Like my kids know swear words, and they're allowed to know swear words, but they're not allowed to use them. Because I want them to learn about life and all the things that life have in it. But then I want to teach them what respect is and how to say thank you, how to be polite, how to be loving, hugs, kisses. And it's really important to have both of those kind of qualities in your children. And for me, that's what I want my kids to remember me as the dad that had fun with us, did all crazy stuff, but we also had rules. And it was all about respecting, loving each other, but also having fun.
Sharing those experiences, brother.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Abe, your life so far has been one hell of a roller coaster. And thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable with me, brother. And thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Man, thank you so much. And honestly, like, this is my first podcast.
Ever?
I think, ever. I've never done this before. But I appreciate it. And I honestly, today for me was about just sharing a bit of my story and kind of just letting people know that business isn't easy. And you are going to face those problems. And if you don't stay resilient and you don't just continue to push, it will take over you. And if losing is the option, maybe not giving up is the right path, and just continue to stay consistent and just, you know, do it for yourself. Don't do it for anything else. Just do it for yourself and be proud of yourself. And that's what it's about.
Back yourself, baby. Love that. All right, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, fuck. Wow.
Bruh.